I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here we talk about psychology and true crime, but I also throw in some entertainment cases or cases that are over on social media or different things like that. You all asked for me to talk about Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. A mutual of mine, Dr. Raquel Martin, I have her a podcast episode that she was recently on down in the description. If you would like to see her break things down more, anybody that heard about this probably saw or heard one of her videos talking about this topic. So, for somebody that's completely new, does not know who Cheyenne Bryant is at all, she was on Club Shay Shay. She did a session with, I'm putting session in quotes because she is not a licensed mental health professional. Because there's some therapy programs where they do get permission for a licensed therapist to record a therapy session and we are able to see the actual therapy session. She is not a licensed therapist. She calls herself a psychology expert and people have trouble finding her dissertation. People also have trouble finding and she's admitted that she is not licensed. I'm not sure if she ever held a license, but in researching her and in researching her case, some news articles have described her as a psychologist. And to my knowledge, she was never licensed as a psychologist. So in the state of Virginia, the term psychologist is protected. You can't just say, so it reminds me of Jody Hildebrandt that was going around. So Jody Hildebrandt did not have a PhD or PsyD, to my knowledge, in clinical psychology, counseling psychology, any. I think she had a master's in psychology, is like in some type of psychology field. And I believe she held a license at the master's level. I do not believe she was a psychologist. I don't believe so. People, like I said, that's just based on what I was able to find on Jody Hildebrandt. This is kind of a similar situation where this individual has now, there are times when media get your credentials wrong. And so that's where I always make sure when I do media, because sometimes they'll confirm with me, okay, how should we write out your name? And I say, Dr. Patrice Berry, licensed psychologist, licensed clinical psychologist. If they wanted to refer to me as a forensic psychologist, I am not a forensic psychologist. I am not a neuropsychologist. Psychiatrists are medical doctors. So I'm very careful anytime I do any type of media to make sure that my credentials are communicated in a fair way. There is something that licensed psychologists can do so they can get board certified. Board certification is not required in the field of psychology, but many psychologists, especially those in the forensic setting, will get additional training to be board certified. So why am I talking about all of this now? Because Cheyenne Bryant went on Joe Budden's podcast. I did not watch the podcast. I saw enough clips to get a general idea of what she talked about. And it's my understanding that she pretty much said that she does not hold a license because it gives her more flexibility. She charges $350 per hour for coaching sessions. So an hour with me of therapy. So I charge $175 for a 45-minute or 1 hour therapy session. Now, I do, if somebody wants to work with me as a coaching client, my coaching services are slightly more. So I charge $200 an hour for coaching. I rarely do coaching. Okay. But in this video, we're going to talk about the difference between a license, as I saw a comment and I'm going to so I'm not saying this. So, and people try to compare her to Dr. Phil. And Dr. Phil, he did do a dissertation. He was licensed as a psychologist at some point. He let his license lapse and he was not doing therapy with people on his show. So when he was giving his like Dr. Phil hard talks to people and having those talks with people. And based on watching the show, he wasn't trying to say he was doing therapy with them. Sometimes people use the word counseling a little bit too loose. Because in the state of Virginia, somebody can be a spiritual counselor and call what they do and call what they're doing counseling, but therapy, getting therapy with a licensed therapist, that is very different than working with a coach. And I've had clients that work with me for outpatient therapy, and they do have a coach. They have a financial coach. They might have, and the financial coach is helping them with their budget. They're helping them break down their spending. I've worked with people that have had like an organization coach, like an executive function coach, somebody that comes to their house and helps them organize. They see where their areas of need are, and they tailor a very specific plan just for that individual. I've seen people do that, but that is not therapy, because there are some coaches that will start trying to dig into people's past trauma, that will try to dig in, and they're pretty much almost doing kind of therapy, but without a license. And my issue with that as a license provider is that I have HIPAA. So I cannot talk and would not talk about my clients on my social media platform. I've sometimes given general scenarios. So I've been licensed since 2010, and I have worked with probably thousands of people that for a variety of different issues. And so when I talk about a general case, it's never so specific that the person hearing it is like, I know she's talking about me. Like, I've worked with a multitude of different cases, a lot of different people, often working with past trauma, working with issues around adoption, working around ADHD, behavioral issues, parenting issues, postpartum. So anytime I'm talking about those things, I'm talking in a very generic way. A coach does not have to do paperwork. So when I work with a coach, so when somebody signs up for my coaching services, I break down that because I am a licensed therapist, if there are safety concerns, we will have to discuss it. Now, I'm not searching for safety concerns. And if I was working with a coaching client and they were in a mental health crisis, I would encourage them to connect, and I would help them connect with a licensed provider in their area. So as a coach, I would not be coaching somebody that's currently in an active mental health crisis. They need a licensed therapist. That's just what they need. And so my shirt says the only drama I want is Korean with English subtitles. Yes, 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 the only drama. So y'all know I love K-dramas, and so it's a nod to K-dramas. And so, yeah. With this whole situation, it has opened up a discussion about the importance of vetting the credentials of people that you hear and listen to on social media. Hey, buddy, do you need something, or are you good? You just want to hear? Oh, my shirt? And does it say that? Yep, my shirt actually says that. Nope, so I don't sell this. I got this online. Yeah. I know. My merch shirts are over there. Yes, my psych nerd shirts, those are mommy shirts. Yes. So Teespring, I have like a vendor that makes them for me. I designed it. Can I get back to the video, or do you need anything? Or are we good? Okay, you're good. Thank you. I'll see you in a moment. All right. Thank y'all for letting me parent for a second. I am very diplomatic and respectful, and then also I like to be able to. Uh, so if you searched for my dissertation, right? And we'll do that. So I will show you all because you have to search it in a different way. And I shared this on TikTok and Instagram because this is mostly living on Threads, TikTok, and Instagram. You will find some videos here on YouTube about it, but it is my algorithm on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram have been all about this right here. Dissertation 2009 Regent. All right. I I have to take the doctor out. Forgiveness. Because it is hard to find my dissertation, but it is there. All right. Because I just found it the other day. Let me take the 2009 out. There we go. So because my maiden name, when I graduated with my doctorate and when I was originally licensed, I had not met my husband yet. And as a professional, I thought about, would I stay Patrice Turner professionally and legally, or would I become Patrice Berry professionally and legally? I was licensed in 2010. I married my husband in 2013. If my career had been more established, so I was established in my area, and I didn't like Turner Berry. Turner Berry sounded like one word. I didn't want to hyphenate it, and so because you have to look up Patrice Turner to find my dissertation, forgiveness and aggressive children. It was the PATS program. Do, 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 do. Because I found it on ProView the other day. Google is not being my friend today, but if you look up over on Instagram and over on TikTok, I have the screenshots from that. I also shared a screenshot of my active licensure as well, and I also shared my degrees. So I have my degrees on my wall, and I really did. So I want to be transparent, and just so you all know, on my channel, I am on my channel. I have, what's the word? I've YouTube has verified my credentials. So YouTube, I submitted my license, I submitted all of those things to YouTube because on my YouTube channel, it says verified health creator. So when on YouTube, if you are on someone's channel and if they have that verified health creator, you do know that YouTube has verified that person's credentials. There have been a lot of people, especially over on TikTok, especially on other platforms, that have said that they had certain degrees, they've said certain things, and then come to find out they didn't actually have those degrees. Yes. Um, I was vetted by YouTube. Did I do it anywhere else? So those are the biggest places where I've done it. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen because on my website I break down the difference between therapy and coaching. So on drpatriceberry.com, if there's a work with me speaking and coaching, I rarely accept new coaching clients. My outpatient therapy caseload is my main priority, and I mostly focus on that right there. And I explain my credentials. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I'll have to update that eventually because it's getting closer to over 20 years of experience. And Mind Your Legacy is separate from my clinical services. So my private practice, if somebody gets mad about something I say on YouTube, they should make a comment on the Mind Your Legacy. Unfortunately, I've had a few people talk about not liking a video over on Four Rivers, which is confusing because that's where I do psychological testing, outpatient therapy that has nothing to do with my YouTube. And they are two completely separate two completely separate businesses, completely separate businesses. And so here under coaching versus therapy, that If you're struggling with minor issues that don't meet criteria for mental health disorder, then coaching might be a good option for you. Coaching is not a therapeutic service and is a completely different model. And I don't coach past, current, or future outpatient therapy clients because there are ethical and boundary issues. Coaches help guide people who are struggling in different areas of their lives. It's goal setting, personal growth, maybe behavior change, and it's really present focused and often short term goal oriented. And so I've done different general life coaching, parent coaching, youth coaching, executive or corporate coaching. And then for some people, they want to work on like launching a small business or something. And so that is that. It's really important to understand the difference. I will also say that the road to become licensed is a lot. Somebody recently commented that LCSWs, that licensed clinical social workers, were not as well trained as maybe a psychologist because of the length of their degree, and that is false. So my residency, so once I graduated, I had to do a 1-year residency. For LCSWs, they often have a 2-year, at least in the state of Virginia, there is a 2-year after you graduate where you have to be under the supervision of somebody and you have to continue to get continuing education. You have to continue to meet these different standards. Now somebody can call themselves a social worker and have a bachelor's in social work, so they might be a social worker through social services or through a different agency. Now to be a clinical social worker or a licensed clinical social worker, that is where people have passed. There's a special licensure test. They've jumped through extra hoops. And so some of that can be confusing. Sometimes people will advertise that they are interns, and interns are always under somebody else's supervision. That's somebody that has not graduated yet. So a practicum student or an intern, those are individuals that are under somebody else's supervision. Residents in counseling, psychology, or social work, residents are also still under supervision. And then once you get your license, you're able to practice on your own. And so that's where and for me, I think every person chooses to focus on something different. So just because somebody's a psychologist, just because they're whatever the person is, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will be more or less skilled. That often having a good understanding of what types of continuing education and training does a person receive, what types of certifications, or so I've done additional focus in the areas of dialectical behavior therapy, DBT. Y'all know I recently completed my EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And that's all for my clinical practice. I would never do EMDR with a coaching client. Never ever. That is a great way to lose your license if you're doing clinical practice with somebody that is like, yes. And so in the original Joe Budden interview, Cheyenne Bryant talked about how not being licensed affords her more flexibility and less restrictions. So, but I think some restrictions are good. So, part of the reason why I'm very careful about going back and forth with people on social media is because even though I'm very clear, I am not your therapist, I'm here to do mental health education. This is not therapy. I try to be very clear about all of that because I am operating in my role as a psychologist. Because I'll let y'all know if I had to choose between being a licensed psychologist or being on YouTube, if for some reason the board of psychology was like, you can't do both, I'm going to maintain my professional license. Like I love being here, I love doing this, but if I had to choose, I would choose my professional work. Um, I love being here and giving the education and just helping clarify things. But my clinical practice is my bread and butter. That's my main focus. And so, all right. Um, and so I just want to make sure if y'all have any questions. If you have questions, make sure to put question marks at the beginning. And let's see. Yeah. All right, I'm not seeing questions. And so those are my thoughts. A lot of people have talked about it, and would I pay $350 to talk with her? No. No. Uh if Dr. Martin offered coaching, like I might do coaching with Dr. Martin. Dr. Martin is she is a phenomenal therapist. She's a great professional. So I watched Cheyenne Bryant's talk with Nick Cannon, and she was on Club Shay Shay, Shannon Sharp. She also interviewed Cam Newton, and I wasn't impressed. I'll just be honest. But for me personally, a lot of the information she was giving was like basic. It was more of that Dr. Phil call you out on your stuff. I don't know that any of it was actually helpful to them. She was actually asked, related to her Cam Newton interview, if he reached out to work with her after it, and he didn't reach out to work with her. And Nick Cannon has been very open about his mental health diagnoses, and you would want somebody that specialized in those diagnoses if they were going to be doing therapy with that person. And if you're doing coaching and somebody needs therapy, you can actually make things worse. You can actually make things way, way worse. That's why we have certain protections. And also, if the coach does something unethical, there's nobody to report them to. So anybody can call themselves a coach. The coach, now there are people that do coaching certifications. So through John Maxwell offers a coaching certification process. They're different. I have a few friends that offer coaching certifications. But that certification, it sometimes that's just something for you to put, like a John Maxwell trained coach. Like that's often a marketing ploy. It's not something that is required. Now, if somebody is saying that they are providing like therapy and they're not, then sometimes that's where for the different states, but because the person doesn't hold an active license, the licensing boards often can't do anything. And so people don't have the same recourse like they do with going to a licensed therapist. Okay. Finding a therapist can be really hard. And I do have a video down in the description where I talked about, or I answered y'all's questions about finding a therapist, questions to ask a therapist, because just because somebody's licensed doesn't mean that they're a skilled practitioner. Like, so just because somebody is fully booked doesn't mean that they're really good at what they do. And so just because somebody has openings doesn't necessarily mean that they're not a good therapist, clinician, those things. Dr. Phil did complete a doctorate in clinical psychology. He does not maintain an active license. So because in order to do what he did, he had to do that. Now she has an honorary doctorate. That has been confirmed. She definitely has an honorary doctorate. On one podcast, unless this is AI, but on one podcast she said that she has 3 doctorates. Oh, okay. Okay. I guess we can go into it because she tried to explain why people can't find her dissertation. And she tried to say that she graduated from Argosy University and that university closed. And when she went to get her transcripts, she was told that they only hold them for 2 years. And all of these Argosy University students have come forward and been like, that's not true. No, like we are able to get our records. That's not accurate. And so in one of her conversations, she said that she was needing her transcripts in order to teach at a law school. And I'm not aware of law schools. Now, I could just not be aware, but I'm not aware of law schools hiring people with degrees in psychology to teach. I could be wrong. Especially somebody that like didn't have a degree in forensic psychology, like somebody who wasn't a forensic expert. It was just it was very interesting to see. She's been a producer on different TV shows. She has a whole bunch of social media, whole bunch of followers. She's written some books, and it is what it is. It is what it is. All right. I'm just gonna make sure I didn't miss any of y'all's questions, and then we're gonna hop over to talk about Corey Richins. You definitely should not be using the term doctor if it's honorary. Definitely, definitely shouldn't be doing that. So, yes. All right. Let me know in the comments if y'all have any additional questions. I truly appreciate this community and I want to make sure that people have accurate information. So I have nothing against coaches. I think, but it's when people operate within the scope of being a coach and they're not trying to do what licensed therapists do. Because there's some licensed therapists that their client moves out of state and they're like, oh, I can keep seeing you now, but we'll call it coaching. Like, you have to be careful with that because if you're still doing therapy, like you might be practicing outside in a different state without a license. So when my clients, I'm not in a, it's like a psych pack. So psychologists can join this organization where you can practice in multiple states, and it's a it just lets you practice in a whole bunch of different states. It's a bunch of paperwork. I hate paperwork. And I am fully booked in Virginia. And if people move, I help them find a new therapist in their new state. That's just what I do. Because also, when you practice in different states, you sometimes have to do like business. There's taxes, there's all of these things that go into it. And it's just way too complicated for my brain. My accountant could figure it out. My mom is my accountant. She's phenomenal, but like I just don't want to do it. And so we are going to take a journey out to Utah and talk about Corey Richins. If this is your last video for today, and if you're new to my channel, welcome. Here, we like to be kind, don't do crimes, and I will see you all next time. Have a good one. Bye.